I did an emergency session for a dog named Rocky, and it actually like helped me. And so I knew I needed to make a video about it because honestly, like it might help you too. So Rocky was in a position where his mom didn't know, like, is it time? Is he hanging on? Like, how will she know he's ready? And so I'm going to read you this, like, literally word for word. He said, I am not in the shape of an animal whose life feels like you have to put them out of their misery. And then he showed me a picture of a dog that I knew who was kept alive so long that it was cruel. Like it was cruelty at that point. He said, she's not dragging my limp body behind her that barely has a heartbeat. It's not like that yet. Yet, of course. But I am ready if she deems it time. And I'm like, you're the one that has to tell her, like, if it's time. And then he thought for a minute, like I could tell he wasn't saying anything. And then he said, I'm still thinking. I suppose you could say there's a certain time where when you enter it, it can be a number of days or weeks, months even. But once you enter this stage, you are okay with leaving anytime. It is when you enter the next stage where it is too late. I feel like I need to explain this more. I know you're trying to understand. A dog, let's use a dog for an example because that's what I am. A dog will enter a state of being when they are old, sick, declining, etc. And once they enter this stage, they're fine with leaving their body that day, the next week, even the next month. These stages last a certain period of time, sometimes a matter of days, sometimes months. But any time you choose within that stage is fine with us. It's upon entering the next stage where it's too late or waiting too late, I should say. Think of Cassie and explain that to her, my mom. That is what I mean. So Cassie was my childhood dog. She passed away when I was 15, and I was like in my 15-year-old drama, but I remember the last week of her life, she was declining. But her last day, we woke up in the morning and it was like an emergency to get her to the vet. Like she couldn't walk, her whole body systems were failing, and it became like, is she ready to, oh my God, we need to like get this done now. So he's saying he's not at that level. So he said, so I'm not at Cassie's level, but I am in the stage where I am content with leaving any time. I hope this makes sense. And I said, it does. It's very interesting. Is it like this with every dog/animal? He said, mostly yes, sometimes no. It depends on the situation. We can call that stage the last chapter. Based on the situation, sometimes that stage is skipped altogether. For instance, a dog that was hit by a car or has a heart attack. They go straight to stage end. There is no more. There is no final chapter because the end stage came very abruptly. Slower declines, even over a matter of a week, these are last chapter stages, but you, the human, don't know how long the last chapter stage will be. And your goal should be to let us go before the chapter ends, because when the last chapter ends and you reach end stage, that is suffering. We can't tell you how many pages there are. Usually you know it's last chapter stages, and we give you signs we're ready, like a look or not eating, a life looking drained. Sometimes you heed to this stage, and sometimes there is denial. Now, I don't use the word heed. I actually looked up what it meant, because sometimes animals use words and I'm like, okay, I've heard this word, but what does it mean? He said, but my point, because I have been talking a lot about this, is that once the last chapter stage starts, we are content to go at any time. Now, of course, you are sitting with guilt, thinking about Inky and Cassie and reaching stage end. So Inky, who's this dog, she had a very slow, steady decline. And what my parents and I realized after we put her down was that we waited too long. We all felt we waited too long, and we all felt guilty about this. So he's saying, now of course you are sitting with guilt, thinking about Inky and Cassie and reaching stage end. An animal who does get to stage end, they have already sort of left in a way. There's just a piece hanging on. If we reach stage end and you feel guilt, don't, because it was a lesson, a learning experience, and the way it was supposed to happen. We, the animals, aren't mad about this. We don't hold it against you. We know generally how it will go. And then he asked to move on because there were other questions. So I finished the session and I was really like sitting with this and like absorbing what he said. The fact that Cassie reached end stage and like dealing with that, and then with Inky, like, just, I don't know, it like what he said, I was just like, this is okay, like this is a lot. Like how, you know, once an animal enters the last chapter stage, they're okay, like whether you need a few days or a week, or, you know, even if it's a month. I mean, the last chapter stage could be like a year, but they but we don't know, the humans don't know how many pages this chapter is. So the goal is, hey, you know, do it before we reach end stage. But how he said, do not feel guilt if we reach end stage, because we, the animal, knew it was going to happen this way. It happened for a reason. We're not mad about it. So this session really helped me. Like, it helped me just sort of with past animals, and also thinking about Buddy, my current dog. And so I knew I needed to share it because I feel like it'll help other people too. Now, I know there's going to be people that are like, animals don't speak English. And again, if you watch my pinned or featured video, I talk about this. I receive messages as words. That's how like they come to me, that I receive them as words. It's not that the animal knows English. It's just that's how the messages are coming to me. So if you watch my pinned featured video, it'll explain that more. Buddy's drinking water right now, which you can hear, and I'm going to end this.